Hello there, people of the internet. I've talked about this before on the channel, but we got a lot of new people, and it's just a very good, universally accepted concept, but a lot of people don't necessarily accept it in the same guise that I'm going to be explaining here in this video. So what my mindset is that for the average person doing what most of your average people would need to do, the 7.62 by 39 is an overwhelmingly good Goldilocks round. Now, what I mean by that is that it is a very good balance between power, size, availability, capability, etc., etc. So in my time of being, I was going to say a gun tuber, but I guess a firearms guy in general, I've seen a lot of people make claims of what their capabilities are, and then they cannot match up those capabilities at all. Like, even the people who say that they are sub-MOA shots out to 600 yards and they are absolute professionals no matter what, 400 yards seems to be like the absolute maximum limitation that most people can shoot at. If you can shoot at more than 400 yards and regularly make hits on your target, then you are definitely not among the norm. That being said, the 7.62 by 39, this right here is a 123 grain bullet, and it is going to be traveling about 2,400 or so feet per second, so it's not exactly a powerhouse of a cartridge. It's not like a 308 or something like that, but it's definitely not an anemic cartridge. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's not an underpowered cartridge. So most people would be able to handle basically anything that you need to handle, and this is a cartridge that is capable out to about 400 yards. It can be taken out to farther distances, but at that 400 yard mark, it starts to really drop like a rock, and it loses so much velocity that the energy transfer onto your target really just is not all that significant. That being said, most people don't really shoot anything beyond that 200 yard mark, especially if they're using their rifles for any practical purposes. If you are shooting beyond 200 yards, you're definitely not among the norm, and basically nobody, short of some recreational purposes, is shooting beyond that 400 yard marking. If you are, like I said, you are not among the norm. Now, it's not a horribly powerful cartridge, but it is powerful enough to be able to take care of most things, especially with proper shot placement. I wouldn't exactly take it big game hunting, and I wouldn't want to use it to fend off like a rhino or elephant charging at me, but most people aren't needing to deal with that. For the most part, for the average person, this right here is just such a good option to have as much power as possible in a good, small, lightweight cartridge that can handle basically anything that the average person would need to handle. And my assumptions on this are not based off of, well, assumptions. They are based off of historical fact of what we have seen in the past. This right here is the 30-30 Winchester, came out in 1894, the first commercially smokeless powder available cartridge on the United States market. Well, that being said, this is a cartridge that pretty much ballistically mimics the capabilities of the 7.62 by 39 with the exception of range. It's not a long-range bullet, or it's not a long-range cartridge because of the bullet design. It could be pushed to longer distances, but for the most part, just because of the firearms that these right here are chambered in, most of them are tube fed. The bullets on these tend to be like a soft point round nose or something like that. But a ton of people have used this cartridge for an extremely long time to handle basically whatever sort of practical situation that they ended up having to handle. And the ballistic capabilities of this cartridge are on par with that of the 7.62 by 39. Now, the 7.62 by 39, the firearms that this right here gets fired out of are dramatically more modern than the firearms that this right here got fired out of. And people will still argue that 30-30 Winchester is still absolutely a viable cartridge for handling whatever it is that you need to handle, at least for the average person. Most people don't shoot beyond 200 yards. Most people are not accurate to the point to where they would notice that this cartridge is going to be slightly less accurate than this cartridge because of bullet design, because they're, you know, fist MOA accuracy at 100 yards or so. But the firearms that the 7.62x39 are chambered in are just a more modern style of firearm just because of the date where these things came out of. It's a rimless cartridge. It tends to have all sorts of different bullet designs if you want full metal jackets or soft points or hollow points, or insert your choice of bullet style there. And they tend to be fired in either the SKS or the AK-47. We're going to talk about the AK because it's a little bit more modern of a design. External magazines, you can get whatever capacity you want. If you want the standard 30-round capacity magazine, then hey, go for it. I take this one hunting. I have a 5-round capacity magazine because of the places that I go hunting with. We got iron sights, or we got a way to mounting optic onto this thing if you feel like it. I have a rail mounting. I mount a 3x9 scope on it, and it has served me extremely well in the past. Here in Florida, things don't get overly big. Our deer's like 150 pounds or so. So I don't necessarily have to worry about having more power. As a matter of fact, if you have too much power, the inside of your deer looks like, you guys ever shoot a watermelon and it just kind of like splurts all over the place? That's kind of what the inside of a deer does too. This is a good Goldilocks cartridge that has enough power to be able to put it down basically immediately without completely destroying the inside of that deer, so you still have something to eat and save after that. I'm sure a lot of people are going to argue the 5.56 is a good go-to cartridge that most people should be going to here in the US. I'm going to argue that the 7.62x39 is a better option other than availability. What makes the 5.56 so widely accepted here in the US is the fact that it is extremely available due to its military adoption. But if we look at the ballistic capabilities of that 5.56 and what it is and what it does, the offerings of the 7.62x39 for what most people use a cartridge for, it just shines better in those areas in comparison to something like a 5.56. Now, if we're talking specialty 5.56, like say 77, 85 grain bullets or VMAX rounds or something like that, then we could have ourselves a different argument, but most people are going to end up using 55 or 62 grain bullets because that's just kind of the standard norm for that cartridge, just like most people are going to end up using 123 grain-ish bullets for the 7.62x39 because that is the standard go-to weight for this cartridge. Now, they make heavier bullets. They make up to 150 grain for this cartridge, I do believe, and they make lighter weight bullets if you want to go out and source yourself some specialty rounds. But like I said, the average person is not going to do that. They're going to go out and get what is readily available on the shelf and what is most common, and that is exactly what we see here. So I wanted to go ahead and throw this video up because there's a lot of debate on these things. I have talked about this before on the channel, but we have a lot of new people that have been brought to the channel, and people like talking about 7.62x39, and I really enjoy it. So here we go. This is my 2 cents on the topic once again. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.